This. Who made this? Porcupine Monarch.
Hello and welcome to an animated guide on how to beat one of Blizzard's tribute raid bosses to a small content creator from Manchester, UK, Preach from Preach Gaming, in one of Blizzard's hidden raids, the Sunken Studio, which can be found in the Sunken Temple and accessed after you have completed the attunement process. Do note that this raid can only be done with 8 players max. Let us begin. The fight consists of 2 phases and one short intermission phase in between. First order of business is never touch the walls, otherwise you will die. Always make sure that at least one player is in the boss's melee range.
Preach drops dead to examine and admire the immaculate smoothness of this floor when no one is in melee range. Right, you gotta stay in melee.
Otherwise, he will reset the fight. Also make sure that there's no more than 4 players in melee range.
Preach asserts total spatial supremacy when more than 4 players are in his melee range. Knocks players away by 80 yards. Okay.
Otherwise, you will incur an AoE knockback which is powerful enough to push you to the walls. The fight starts with a medium AoE knockback. For this reason, we start...
Hollow bellows. Okay. Preach delivers a thunderous greeting, severely distorted by his inferior accent. Jesus Christ. Deals medium physical damage and knocks everyone away 40 yards. Inferior accent. I'm a small content creator with an inferior accent. How sad is this?
The encounter stacked up a bit. Then there's a raid-wide AoE. Stand in front of...
Brofist. Preach concludes his salutation of the raid with a taste of his righteous knuckles. From one bro to another's. Deals medium physical damage distributed evenly. Oh, so it's a brofist cleave.
For the boss to split the damage. Throughout this phase, the boss will rotate between these 2 abilities. With Move Mate, the boss gains 5 stacks of a buff and consumes each stack.
Effortlessly disposes of players within his personal space. Strikes the nearest 5 times with a line area of effect that deals medium physical damage.
To hit the nearest player with a line AoE and reposition them 15 yards away from the boss. Have the tanks get hit first, then the melee. One tank soaks the last hit, and the second tank gets boss aggro. With Movemate Plus, the boss marks the 4 furthest players, in this case the ranged and healers, hits them with a large AoE, and repositions them 20 yards away from the boss. So,
this is an FF14 fight.
Spread, and you're gonna be fine. Do know that all hits by any Movemate ability, regardless of how many pluses are in the name, apply 1 random debuff out of these 3. Elitism, erectile dysfunction, or poverty.
Poverty. You've been hit with poverty. You've become poor. You're debuffed with poverty. Oh, God.
They all do a fixed amount of damage, which, however, is increased depending on certain conditions. With Elitism, the damage of the debuff is increased by the number of AOTC and cutting-edge achievements a player is missing from the past expansion and current expansion raid tiers. With Erectile Dysfunction, the damage of the debuff is increased by the item level difference between the target's item level and the highest item level in the raid group. With Poverty, there's extra damage based on the difference between the target's amount of gold in their inventory and the amount of gold in the inventory of the richest player in the raid group.
That's so ridiculous.
That's it for Preach's abilities in Phase 1. Now let's talk about the ads. There's 3 of them, 4 on Mythic. The Unreliable Developer, the Shady Developer, the Spritzy Elemental, and the Blue Deviant on Mythic. Phase 1 ends when you kill these, or when the Elemental reaches the boss. You don't kill the Elemental because he is tagged as friendly, but that's the only exception. The Shady Developer casts Leveling Connoisseur, which...
Leveling Connoisseur endows Blizzard's intended quality of life design upon Preach. Increases Preach's damage by 10%. Oh, Jesus
buffs the
Christ.
boss's damage and cuts the enrage timer short by 10 seconds per stack. Highly recommended that you always interrupt this. The Blue Deviant, which only appears on Mythic, appears in stealth and occasionally jumps at random players, does bonus damage from behind, and creates fogs that silence players.
Roll content, oh God.
Death. The Unreliable Developer possesses an aura called Utterly Clueless, which applies a bleed debuff called Faith in the Game on every player in a large radius. I recommend killing this one last, because upon death, he will cast Return of the Tier Sets. This applies a dot called Shard of Domination on every member of the raid. When you get this, you have 10 seconds to go and reposition yourself to stand under the boss, because when the dot explodes, the boss will soak it. If you don't stand near the boss when the buff expires, you're dead. For each shard the boss soaks, the boss gets a stack of end of
He's just devastated by the presence of sheer incompetence and disappointment from the blues. Increases damage taken by 5%. I'm debuffed. Oh no.
an era. This stuns him for 20 seconds and also increases his damage taken per stack. This is your cue for Bloodlust. After that, the encounter moves on to the first intermission phase. If you don't kill the ads in time, the Spritzy Elemental will have reached the boss, which moves on the encounter to the first intermission phase.
Friday
In this phase,
special.
the boss despawns and you have to deal with the following. An ad called Guild Leader Extraordinaire spawns and starts casting Fred's Guild Invite. Everyone stack underneath him to get invited to Fred's Guild. Then he casts Fred's Politics,
Is this from Fred's Tree? This is from Drama Time. This is from Fred's Tree in Drama Time. Oh my god, that's a drama story from like fucking 4 years ago. Holy shit, whoever made this, I don't know who you are, but is a long-time viewer. This is mad. This is crazy. If you've never heard that drama story, look it up on our website. It's so fucking good.
actively killing anyone who is not in Fred's guild. This is just a check to see who didn't stand underneath the ad when he cast the guild invite. That's it. The next ability is Fred's Tree, and here's what happens. This is important. You will see 3 sets of orbs spawn, and it's crucial that you pay attention as to where they spawn. The first set is 2 orbs parallel to each other with a line in the middle that marks the safe zone. Then 3 orbs either here at the end of the safe zone line or here at the other end. And 4 orbs.
Oh god,
like
we've gone
this.
full
Here's a
ultimate.
simulation of what happens. Once the orbs are in place, a random player gets targeted for Fred's raid group. These are AoEs that need to be soaked, and they
Fred compels his loyal troops to march as one, deals light to medium holy damage in a 10-yard radius that's shared, and leaves behind a deadly miasma that deals shadow damage to players who stand in it. Oh god.
They also leave puddles, so you have to move. Then 2 players get hit with Fred's split runs. Same deal, except
Fred's
it's 2
split
players now.
runs.
Split into 2 groups to withstand the damage. Puddles will also be left behind. Now run to the safe spot to survive the 3rd orb set. All in all, your running path should look like you're drawing a tree. And congratulations, you have survived the intermission phase. Now for phase 2, the last phase of the encounter.
Oh no,
phase 2
my
starts
office!
with the rising tide.
You son of a bitch! You son of a bitch! Oh my god, you absolute son of a bitch. As the encounter sails further, hope goes down the drain. The feeble pipe system of the encounter area's infrastructure collapses, deals large raid-wide nature damage. Oh my god. The encounter area becomes flooded but stays intact. British products are seaworthy. We lost a mixer and some other things.
Where the pipe system collapses and unleashes an overwhelming spillage, dealing large raid-wide damage. And a small visual change to the arena. Say goodbye to your FPS if you have a crap computer.
That was Chris's fault. That was Chris's fault. That stupid underwater effect killed the stream, Chris.
Here the boss will rotate between MoveMate++, a 300-degree cone AoE on the main aggro target. He will use this one twice, so tanks need to rotate. Next is the MoveMate++, a 90-degree AoE opposite to each other. Where they land depends on the boss's animation, so if his weapon is positioned like this, the AoEs will land here. Watch closely. Remember, every hit by one of these abilities applies one of these debuffs.
Yep.
In addition, there will be these damaging waves called live streams, quote, which do a lot of damage to whoever they touch, so keep an eye on those. Make sure you don't get hit by them. Because of the flooding, the encounter area becomes a little bit contaminated. I'm talking about a mechanic called mold spores, which means you will take damage if you move. For this reason, you want to minimize movement, and make sure you are also careful about where you stand. The legacy of Warcraft is a don't look at the boss ability, so you're not supposed to
That's no effect on players when not facing Preach.
face him when he finishes casting it. However, this ability is bugged, as it does 0 damage. However, there have been reports that if you get hit, it can crash your game, or even worse, corrupt your game files. So, better be safe than sorry, respect this mechanic as if it weren't broken. And that's pretty much it. This is everything about the Preach boss encounter. Unless you're here on Mythic. In which
Oh,
case,
no.
there's more to talk about in Phase 2.
Oh,
In Phase 2
no.
on Mythic, Preach will alternate between 4 various combat stances, or forms if you will. These are Preach the Plague Inspector, Preach the Rodent Inspector, Preach the Inspector Inspector, and finally, Preach the Home Inspector. While in one of these forms, the boss gains access to 1 or 2 new abilities. As the Plague Inspector, the boss will open with this ability, which, for the love of God, I can't pronounce. All it does is deal raid-wide nature damage, and quite a lot of it, if I might add. Then he will perform a Cancer Inspection.
Cancer inspection. rather than through his death, Preach drives you to the floor through pathological transference. The metastasis deals nature damage based on the amount of yards traversed by players after the rising tide. I have no idea what I'm writing. Okay.
Which deals damage to everyone. The damage, however, is individual. It's calculated based on the amount of yards you've moved throughout the entirety of Phase 2. As the Rodent Inspector, Preach will initiate the...
Wait. Go back. Through an unholy alliance and not a lack of heinous deeds, Preach refers to a dark pact forged with his rodent nemesis.
Rats.
If at least one player dies, everybody dies, leaving the instance supplies a 1-hour rest sickness to the leaving player.
Ultimatum, which essentially puts the encounter on a collective hard mode. If one player dies, so does everyone else. In addition, if you leave the dungeon for whatever reason, you get a 1-hour rest sickness, and a debuff that causes every mob with a rad model to automatically aggro within a large radius. As the Inspector, the boss summons a duplicate called Assistant Inspector, which deals only a portion of the boss's damage, but copies his move-made abilities. As the Home Inspector, the boss uses
Deals fixed damage. Damage increased by the amount of yards between your Hearthstone location and the body of water nearest to it.
Water Inspection, which does a small amount of damage, however, increased by the amount of yards between your Hearthstone location and the body of water nearest.
This is
to that
ridiculously
location.
well researched.
Sounds stupid to me, but it is what it is. Thanks, Blizzard. And lastly, of course, regardless of the difficulty mode, after 11 minutes from the pull, Preach will use Requiem of the Bald, which
Fuck you. Fuck you. Violently floods the area to the brim, wipes the raid. Okay, I've got an enraged timer, the Requiem for the Bald.
floods the arena and kills everyone. Alright, and that's it. Take what you have learned from this guide. Go out there, kill the boss, and enjoy the loot.
The Leaky Water Pipe. Increase your frost damage by 1% and swim speed by 30%. When equipped, your garrison becomes flooded. The Movemate Max. Your auto attacks have a high chance to shove your target aside by 5 yards. And int staff, I mean, you don't know me very well. Obviously, we need a strength 2H. Oh no. Here it comes. The floor's top hat. Use die. You just die. Oh my god. The Mallet of Dramatic Judgments. Oh, I've already got that. I looted that. There it is. Increase your damage against recently suspended players by 30%. Roger's Curse. Reduces your movement speed by 100% when near an obstacle. The Crawlers. Allows you to move while dead, but only at 10% of your total movement speed. Jesus Christ, that Roger's Curse one is so clever. That's really clever. Cognizance of Unparalleled Intellect. Cognizance. Use. Applies exploit early, increasing your experience gain by 10%, may be stacked indefinitely. Each stack of exploit early decreases the average wait time of tickets opened by other players against you by 30%. The genius of Preach is said to generate a gravity of its own. Another spritzy bottle brings out the natural beauty of your hair to charm the ladies, increasing your main stat by 2% per charmed body type 2. Or 7 characters within 30 yards. Body type 2 coming in clutch. These are really deep. They're incredibly deep. The legacy of thine class. Use travel back in time to gain exclusive access to an ability taken by time from your spellbook. Fred's command. If you are a guild leader, prevents other members from leaving your guild. Quality trinket. Quality trinket. I am not the pruner. The Tome of Polymorph Rat. And the back, 69 slot back. The backpack. Oh, the backpack's in storage. I don't have it here anymore. Tome of Polymorph. Is that not already in the game? I would have thought it would be. Terrarium of Bubbly Joys. Teaches you how to summon a happy turtle. The Raids of the Llama. Teach you how to summon this mount. Summons and dismisses that llama. The drama llama appears. Beautiful. The Reigns of Mispreach. Don't you ride my wife. That's not allowed. Don't you ride my wife. That's not okay. That's not okay. Don't you ride my wife. That's bad news. God, how many is it? The Torn Scripts pages of Dramatic Times. Assume the role of a random actor. The Hot Babe. Increase the main stat of any player that trades you more than 50% of your gold net worth by 5%. Oh, thank you, Turtlefish. I'm not sure why notifications aren't working. I don't know if Chris has a suggestion. They're all on. I don't know what's happened there. Thank you very much, Turtlefish. Going for the happy turtle play. The Servile Flatterer. Increase bonus gains from appeasing hot babes with gold by 100%. The Level-Headed Mate. Increase your main stat by 10% when you slap a Servile Flatterer that has recently traded gold to a hot babe. The Cult Leader. Gain 1% increase to your main stat for every player performing /kneel to you for 1 hour or more in the vicinity of 10 or more players. Jesus Christ. Unbelievable. The Rusty Shard of Domination. Cancels the bonus effects of your equipped tier sets. Additionally, increases your game's uninstall speed by 90%. Nothing better than getting bonuses and then losing them. That's good fun. Really good fun. Oh, that was incredible. I can't believe how deep that was. Can you give that a retweet, Bex? That is insane. That is insane.